Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुं स्वस्तनोभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a hearty welcome to one and all for today's 18th session to study Mandukya Upanishad Karikas. With the previous session, we commenced the study of the profound Advaita Prakaranam Karikas. Gaudapada wishes to establish four main ideas about the universe. 1. Vedanta negates the existence of the world. 2. Vedanta negates the origination of the world. 3. The appearance and experience of the world is acceptable to Vedanta. 4th, the cause and appearance of experience is Atma Vidya or Maya or self-ignorance. In today's Karikas 11 to 15, he takes up to negate the origination of the world while accepting the appearance of the world. Why did Upanishads introduce creation itself? Was it temporarily for the purpose of teaching Brahman? Let us listen to Dr. Ambika, Dr. Komal, Dr. Sanjay Benekal, who will explain all these verses and help us crystallize the knowledge. Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir shall moderate today's session. He will not only give an introduction, but he will also give us insights into the day's topics to help us understand these Karikas better. Let us begin the day's session with a quick recap of Advaita Prakaranam Karikas 6 to 10 of our previous session by Dr. Anupama. Over to Dr. Anupama for the recap.
Thank you, Shivji. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As we have just heard, we are studying the Mandukya Upanishad, Advaita Prakarana, and today I shall give a quick recap of Karikas 6 to 10, which we had studied in the previous week. Here, Gaudapadacharya wants to explain the significance of the word Advaitam. He says, Advaita Turyam is Karya Karana Vilakshana. He divides creation into two, Jiva Srishti and Jagat Srishti. He then establishes that neither of them are born out of Brahman. These verses logically explain that Jivatma is not born out of Paramatma. To prove that there is no Jiva Srishti, he takes the example of space or Akasha. Just as pot space is seemingly born out of total space, Jivatma appears to be born out of Paramatma. So what is Paramatma? The all-encompassing Atma is called Paramatma, and that aspect of it which is enclosed within the body is called Jivatma. Gaudapadacharya then enumerates the various misconceptions that we have about this Jivatma. First being Utpatti or origination, second, the Nasha or disappearance, third, doshas like Sukham, Dukkham, Raga, Dvesha, etc. Fourth, Vishesha or individuality of Jivatma, like we identify people as Indian, Chinese, Russian, German, or Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, etc. And finally, with the relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma, which factually is non-existent. Why? Because Jivatma is Paramatma. Starting with Karika 6, which goes like this: Rupa Karya Samakhyaschya Vidyante Tatra Tatra Vai Akashasya Na Bhedo Asti Tadvad Jiveshu Nirnayaha. This is the fourth misconception, that Jivatma has a distinct individuality which differentiates it from Paramatma with respect to Nama Rupa and Karma, which means function. Rupa Karya Samakhasya Vidyante Tatra Tatra Vai means even though there is Nama Rupa and Karma Bheda, the truth is these differences do not belong either to Jivatma or space, because we know Akashasya Bheda Nasti Tadvad Nirnaya Jiveshu. In the same way, it is one Paramatma which is misconceived as various Jivatmas. Vedanta says Jivatma has no attributes because all attributes belong to the Sukshma, Stula, and Karana Shariras. Next, what is the relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma? Is it Daso Aham or Soham? Dasoham is Adhyaropa, it is Aupadikam, and Soham is Apavada or Vastavikam. Karanas Karika 7 says, Na Akashasya Gatakasha Vikara Avayavo Yatha, Na Eva Atmana Sada Jiva Vikara Avayavo Tatha. The factual relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma is no relationship. Just as part space is neither a part nor a product of total space, the Jivatma Chaitanyam is not a part or product of Paramatma Chaitanyam. Jivatma is Paramatma. In this context, we should note the difference between Vivarta and Parinama Karanam. We can say that gold is Parinama Karanam of ornaments, an ornament being a product of modification of the shape of gold. The smith of the skill of a goldsmith is needed here. Now just think, is Ghata Kasha a product of some space smith's skill? No. Mahakasha is the Vivarta Karanam of Ghatakasha. Yata Akashasya Ghatakasha na Vikara Avayavau Tatha. Paramatma is the Vivarta Karana of Jivatma. Paramatma undergoes no change, no differentiation to become Jivatma. Then, how can there be ignorance-based plurality and even transactions which seem so real? Does all this happen in one Advaita Atma? Gaudapadacharya says, Avidyakrita upapadyate. The cause of plurality is ignorance, which in turn is the cause of samsara. Tarati shokam atmavit. The knower of Atma crosses over sorrow. Jivatma Paramatma Vedhakrito Vyavaharaha. Therefore, all plurality-based transactions among Jivatmas are just mithya. All our port, our possessions, obligations, relationships, and transactions are mithya. Experientially, transactionally available, but factually unreal. Now, with this, plurality has been negated. And this negation of plurality includes Janma Marana Vyavahara. The Pancha Kleshas of Jivatma are negated. What are Pancha Kleshas? Avidya or ignorance, Ashmita, ego, Raga Dvesha, and Abhinivesha, which means a tendency to cling on to life, to cling on to our bodies. The consequence of this Pancha Klesha being Karatritvam and Bhoktritvam. Now, what Vyavahara is possible in the binary format? Mantra 7 had said Atma is a Vyavaharam. So any Vyavahara is Aupadika Vyavahara. How does Atma get involved? Just as a superimposition. Vyavahare Atmani Adhyastha. For example, Janma Maranadi Vyavahara. Gaudapadacharya then gives examples of erroneous superimpositions. Yata bhavati balanam gaganam malanam malaihi tata bhavati abuddhanam atma api malino malaihi. This is Karika 8, which says only childish or ignorant people think that Akasha is impure. Reality being impurities belong to the air. This is called Aupadika Bheda, or distinction caused by an enclosure or upadhi, and these neither afflict the Atma or space. The body, mind, intellect, or anatma may be impure. Abuddhanam, the avavikis, or the ignorant people, superimpose malinam or samsara upon themselves and others. Impurities of upadhi do not blemish the Atma. Atma malinaha na bhavati. Adi Shankaracharya, in his text Manisha Panchakam, says, one who knows sa eva aham, or soham, or aham brahma asmi, nacha drishyavastvam iti. I am not an object of experience. Chandalostu satu dvijastu gururiti esha manisha mama. Just as Ghatakasha is seemingly born out of Mahakasha, avilakshana, meaning similar to this, are other seemingly real events like the Jivatma's birth and death, as we see in Karika 9, Sambhave and Marane, arrival, departure, and occupation of bodies, Agama, Gama, and Sthitihi. All these, he says, are mithya. With these karikas, we have now understood Akasha Drishtanta, Jiva Utpatti Nisheda by Yukti Pramana. The conclusion is moksha is not an external event involving external change, nor is it an internal one involving internal change. We have clearly understood Jivasya Utpatti Nasti. So, how does one become Paramatma? Just drop these 5 misconceptions. Realize that you were, you are, and you ever will be Paramatma. We now have a Purva Pakshi who agrees Jivatmasya Utpatti Nasti. And he says, what about Jivasya Sharira? We agree Mahakasha, Ghatakasha are the same. But who created the Ghatam? Who created the Jiva Sharira? If this Sharira are born out of Atma, then what about the Akarana status of Advaita Turyam? Gaudapadacharya now explains how Jiva Sharira, or the entire Anatma Prapancha, is born. He says, Sangataha Swapnavat Sarve Atma Maya Visarjita Na Upapatti Vidyate. Upapatti means Utpatti Padaka. Utpatti Pratipadaka means logic for real origination. Sangata means an infinite number of Stula and Sukshma Sharirani, and Atma Maya Visarjita means projection of Maya Shakti. Swapna Drishtante Jiva Sharira Api Nisheda. Here, Jiva Sharira, remember, represents the entire Anatma Prapancha. He says, birth of Jiva Shariram is very similar to that of Swapna Shariram. Therefore, Jiva Shariram is also only seemingly born, and Atma is the seeming cause of this seeming birth. Bottom line being, Tasmat Avidyakrita Eva Na Paramarthatha Santi. The Jagrat Prapancha, like Swapna Prapancha, is mithya despite experienceability, transactability, and utility. Tasmat Jiva api na jayate, Jagat api na jayate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama, for giving us an excellent summary of the Karikas 6 to 10. Those who have listened to you will appreciate the amount of work done to convey what Gaudapadacharya is teaching us. On listening for the first time, or you will experience a certain amount of difficulty. But Gaudapadacharya is giving the highest truth possible. And therefore, if it is difficult to understand, it only means I have to make a little more effort, because here what we are getting is Advaita in its absolute purity. And the more I make a little effort, I will get a real understanding of my true nature, which will lead to liberation here and Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. As we are studying more and more difficult texts, and we have come to Mandukya, and this is my feeling that once we have got some idea of Mandukya, we will come back to some of the texts that we have studied earlier, revise it. Now our understanding will become deeper, and then Mandukya becomes more easy to understand. If you have to understand Advaita Vedanta, one of the best sources that we have is Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. And fortunately, this is one that we have studied many times. And if you go back to Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra now, you will see my understanding of these verses are so much more beautiful. The chorus goes, Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Now, whenever you chant that chorus, there is so much of a bhakti bhava that comes. Bhakti is useful, but the first three lines we need to break our head. I will request Shamala to chant this first verse for us. Shamala, please.
विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये.
Thank you very much. Instruction to all sincere students. Get these words by heart. Make that effort and make it a regular prayer. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. Now, this is how traditionally all scriptures are taught. It should be in our mind. Shruti. It is not anything written, it is heard from the teacher, and the student memorizes the text. And then when the student is ready, the teacher will give word for word meaning. Let us go for the word for word meaning. Vishwam. Vish starts from V, Vividam. Vividam, Shwa means that which is constantly changing. Vishwam here represents anything that is anatma. What is anatma? My body is anatma, which is changing. My mind is changing. And the whole world around me is changing. The world is also called Jagat. Jayate, Gachate, iti Jagat. That which is born, that which is gone. So the world is constantly changing. So the first word of Dakshinamurti Stotra refers to anatma, all that is not me. And therefore, this first verse is talking about Atma, Anatma, Viveka. How do I relate to my own body? How do I relate to my world outside? And the example given is, somebody needs to be muted. How do I relate to the Anatma? The Anatma can be compared to Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. That means the whole world is a reflection. The whole world is only an imagery. The word Darpana means mirror. Darpa means pride. Na means that which leads you to pride. Whenever you look at yourself in the mirror, you get a certain sense of an ego and pride. So the root meaning of the word is Darpana is that which leads you to become proud. But here we are talking about Drishyamana Nagari, as if the world has become, the whole city is now reflected city. Forget the original city. When you're looking at the mirror, you're only seeing a reflection. Tulyam means similar to. So the whole world is similar to a reflected city. Nija means oneself. Antar, within. Gatam, gone. So all the images of that city is now as if it is gone inside the mirror. So we got the words right. Vishwam means the anatma prapancha, which is constantly changing. The whole world can be compared to images So we are continuing with the word for word understanding of this beautiful mantra. Pashyan, that means I am now aware, I am seeing this whole world where Atmani. I am seeing it within myself in my Atma or consciousness. Mayaya. Mayaya means because of Maya, Bahir Iva, as if it is outside. Udbhutam manifests or comes into being Yatha Nidraya. Example, Nidraya means Swapna. In Swapna, in dream, the dream is actually within me, but because of Nidra Shakti, it seems to all of us while dreaming that the dream world is outside and the dream world is real. So Pashyan means seen. This whole Anatma Prapancha is seen within my Atma, but because of Maya Shakti, it appears to be outside. And what is actually imagery, it appears to be real. Now we come to the real point. Yaha. Swami Chinmayananda says, Yaha, he whoever he may be. Yaha, that person, we are referring to him. And who's the him here? None other than Sri Dakshinamurti. That enlightened person, Sakshat Kurute, experiences directly when Prabodha Samaye, on waking up. Prabodha means the waking up from sleep to awakening, or here it has got a double meaning. When you awaken from your dream, or when you awaken to your higher level of paramarthika, when a person has spiritual awakening, then what happens? The entire dream world that seemed to be outside, you realize is Swa Atma Eva Advayam. The entire dream world is nothing but a part of me. And so too, when a person has spiritual awakening, and this is the meaning of Advayam. When a person awakens from Vyavahara to Paramarthika, you realize that there is no sense of otherness. This whole world, including my body and mind, are only an extension of me. Tasmai, to that Guru Murti, to that Swami Paramarthananda who has given me this understanding, who is none other than Sri Dakshinamurti. This is my prostration. This is the word for word meaning. A little more elaboration. It is the same thing said in different words. The first verse of Sri Dakshinamurti tells you how to relate to your own body and mind and how to relate to the whole world, because your body mind is anatma. The real me is atma, the observer. And how do we relate to this? We have to remember four things. I, just like in the dream, I am the adhishtanam. I am the supporter of my dream world. So too as Atma, I am the supporter of this entire world. Compared to the world which is Mithya, I am Satya. And this whole world, just like the dream world, is not apart from the dreamer. When you awaken, you realize there is no sense of otherness. Everything is only an extension of me. And this is called Advayam. The moment you realize, just like the dream world is a not so real world, when you awaken into spiritual understanding, this world does not disappear, but I know it is of a lower order of reality. My body and my mind and the world, and therefore, anything that happens to my body, mind, or the world cannot affect me. This is one point that guarantees liberation, and that is what is called asangoham, asangoham. That means 4 points to remember. I am the adhishtanam, or the support of this whole mithya prapancha. I am satya compared to my body, mind, and the world. I am asanga, and I am non-dual. That means the world is not apart from me. In the same Vaitatya Prakaranam, which helps me to understand that the world is not so real, the culmination was na nirodho na cha utpatti, which is being elaborated now in Advaita Prakaranam, like there is no real creation. Nothing is born, nothing goes into dissolution. If nothing is born, where is baddha? Where is bondage? Where is the seeker? Where is the mumukshu? Where is the muktaha? Ityesha paramartatha. Another mantra to be remembered by all students. Mattaha na anya kinchana asti. Apart from me, there is nothing else. Even though I'm seeing it outside, it is because of avidya nidra. Let me come to the Vada called Drishti Srishti Vada. We love this Mahavakya. Mahavakya says, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam. Because of me, this whole world Jatam has come into being. Mayeva, because of me, Sarvam Pratishtitam. I lend existence to everything. My Sarvam Layim Yayim Layati. Everything dissolves into me. Tad Brahma Dvayam Asmayam. I am that non-dual Brahman. That means this whole world is a projection from me, just like my dream. And this is a verse which talks about what is called Drishti Srishti Vada. Now, normally we talk of Satta Traya Vada, and when we come to Mandukya, we talk of Satta Dvaya. What is Satta Traya? There are three levels of reality. Pratibhasika, the dream world; Vyavaharika, the world we are currently in; and Paramarthika, the world when a person becomes a Guru Murti, Shri Dakshina Murti. In Swapna Prapancha is called Drishti Srishti. It exists because I see. If I don't see, the dream world has disappeared. So the dream world is Mayeva Sakalam Jatam. I alone project the dream world. I alone sustain the dream world. The dream world resolves into me. And this dream world is called Drishti Srishti. There is another Vada which is also valid, which is called Srishti Drishti. When I wake up, because of my mind and sense organs, I see a world outside. And this level is called Vyavahara Prapancha. But then I have to go to Paramarthika. You will remember how difficult it was to consider Mithya Jagat Brahma Satyam Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Difficult, but slowly we are coming to terms. So too, initially it is Srishti Drishti Vada. There is a world outside. Through my mind and sense organs I see. But later on, when you come to texts like Mandukya, you will understand actually it is Drishti Srishti. I as Atma, through my Maya Shakti, I am projecting this whole universe. It takes a long time to come to this jump. Let time come. Now, in Mandukya Upanishad is one example of Drishti Srishti Vada. The other strong example that we have already studied is Upadesha Sara. Bhagwan Ramana does not consider or does not give any importance to the world. That's why when somebody asked him how to treat others, he said there are no others. This is called Eka Jiva Vada. I alone am. Everything else that I see is like a dream world. And you have to see yourself like you have awoken in your dream, but the dream world continues and you see everything else as non-dual from yourself. Now, what is this Eka Jiva Vada or Satta Dvaya Vada? Swapna Prapancha is Pratibhasikam, that I know. This is Drishti Srishti Vada. Now you have to learn to accept. Take your own time. No hurry. When you are able to understand that the Jagrat Prapancha is also fake. It is a Pratibhasika Satyam. Therefore, in this understanding, one truth has been gone away. There is no Vyavahara Satyam. We only have Paramarthika, and this is called Drishti Srishti Vada. Coming back to Dakshinamurti Stotra, I'll go through it once again, and I want you to get these words right. Jagrat Vishwam Tarpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Asti. The waking world, when you see the Anatma Prapancha, it is like a reflected city on the mirror. One more example, the dream example. Jagrat Vishwam Nijantargatam Swapna Vishwam Iva Asti. The waking world is actually within me, just like the dream world is within me. Jagrat Vishwam Atmani Pashyati. The waking world is perceived through my mind and sense organs, ultimately by the Atma. Nijantargatam, Nija means oneself, Antargatam means within myself. Swapna Vishwam, the dream world, because of Nidra Shakti, Udbhutam iva asti. The dream world, which is actually within me, because of Nidra Shakti, appears to be outside, appears to be real. So too this world. Nijantargatam Jagrat Vishwam. Actually, this world is which is within me, within Atma, api also, because of avidya mayaya, bahir udbhutam iva asti. Got it? Then what happens? Now comes the awakening moment. Now, this is the moment of spiritual awakening. If the teacher's words now enter our head, yaha, that person, that means myself. Shupta Purusha, from my deep sleep state, now becomes awake. Prabodha Samay. I wake up. Then I realize I am Advayam, Swatmanam. This is what is called Sakshat Kurute. That means I suddenly realize I am the supporter of the whole world. I am unaffected by anything that happens in the whole world. I am Satyam and I am non-dual. Now let us be very clear what is this Sakshat Kurute. After waking up, I do not see the waker, but I claim I am the waker. This claiming is called Sakshat Kurute as far as the dream world. Similarly, once Brahma Vidya comes, I do not claim I am Atma. I am not Brahmavid. Brahmaiva Bhavati. In self-knowledge, I claim similarly, in self-knowledge, I do not experience the Atma. I'm not the knower of Atma. I'm not Brahmavid. I'm Brahmaiva Bhavati. In self-knowledge, I claim I am Atma. I am Atma Brahma. And this peculiar process, which has been taught to us by Swamiji, is called Sakshatkara. So it is not coming to face with any Atma. It is a realization, oh, I am that. Tasmai Prabuddha Purusha Jnanina Namaha. To that Jnani, Dakshinamurti, to that Jnani, my Guru, Tasmai means to that awoken person. Why? And only an awakened person can wake us up. Prabuddha, that awakened person, who is a Jnani, who is a liberated person, who knows that he is the Jagat Adhishtanam. To that Jnani, my Namaskara, my Guru. That is it. Now we will come to our Karikas. We are now looking at scriptural proof to say that there is no real world, even though I experience a real world. What are the scriptural verses? Dr. Ambika, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Next slide, sir. Rasadayo hi ye kosha vyakhyastastriyake teshamatma paro jivaha khagam yatha samprakashitaha. The running meaning: the 5 koshas beginning with Annamaya are mentioned in Taittiriya Upanishad. The Supreme Atma is revealed as the content of them, like the space. The 5 koshas, in this verse, the origination of the world is negated, while accepting the appearance of the world. The negation of Jiva, Shrishti, and Jagat Shrishti is done through the scriptures. The logic and science have got their limitations. Logic never can reveal the truth. There is a Shastra Pramanam for negation of Jiva Shrishti. The negation of the origination of the world is divided into 2 parts. One is the Jiva, the experiencer of the world, and other is the Jagat. Both the Jiva Shrishti and the Jagat Shrishti are negated in this verse. Jiva Shrishti was negated from the verse 3 to 9 using the example of pot and space. The pot and space is seemingly created, but not really created. Similarly, the Jiva, the consciousness principle, is not created. As the enclosure is around the pot space, the same very around the Jiva enclosure alone is there. Jiva, the consciousness, is not created. Enclosure of what? The 5 koshas. Each kosha's enclosure is starting from the Annamaya. Atma, the consciousness principle, experiencing all those five koshas. The experience of these five koshas is different. So I must be the inner content, different from the kosha. That is the Atma, the witness consciousness. The inner Atma is equated to the Brahman. Thus, the Jivatma Paramatma identity or Aikyam is revealed in Taittiriya Upanishad. Jivatma is never born, just as the Paramatma is never born. Gaudapacharya ji points out that not only the jivas are not created, the Jagat, even though it appears to be created. To convey this seemingly creation, the example of the dream world was taken. The dream world is really not created, but it is seemingly created because it appears before us. Similarly, this universe is not really created, but it appears like the dream. The Jagat Srishti is negated with the help of the dream world. From the verse 11 to 14, the Gaudapacharya ji says that the Upanishads convey the meaning that the Jivatma is not created out of Paramatma, even though we feel that the Jivatma are created, take rebirth and pray. That is, it is our last dharma. But Jivatma is never born. All Upanishads directly point out that Jivatma Paramatma identity. If two are one and the same, then how it is possible that one is born out of the other? This is a misconception. Next slide. So all our sadhanas are not for removing the rebirth, but for removing our misconception regarding the birth and the rebirth. So from that we get the freedom not from the rebirth, but from the misconception that I am born again and again. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ambika, for a nice explanation of this verse. We have now come to that portion of Advaita Prakaranam, where Gaudapadacharya wants to make use of scriptural proofs to prove his point that there is no real creation. Remember, we are from not the Nastikas, we are the Astikas. Astikas means we give a lot of importance to our scriptures. Our scriptures are taken as gospel truths. Now, although he has given us logical proof, now we are looking at various quotations from different Upanishads. Now, here is the quotation from the Taittiriya Upanishad. And the Taittiriya Upanishad, how although there are various sheets, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, all these are only the Upadis. But then how the Upadis lead us to the Parabrahma, Paramatma. Now we continue from other verses from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which will be explained by Dr. Komal. Dr. Komal, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We are seeing the Shruti to negate the Jiva Srishti. Should remember the three things we rely on is Shruti, Yukti, Anubhuti. We'll never leave the logic, but similarly, as Sir just said, the scriptural truth is the gospel truth. So what is Gaudapada wanting to establish here are principally four main ideas. The first idea is Vedanta negates the existence of the world. Second, Vedanta negates the origination of the world. Third, the appearance and experience of the world is acceptable to Vedanta. Fourth, the cause for the appearance and experience is Atma Avidya, Mula Avidya, Maya, or self-ignorance. So these are the four main ideas. So these seemingly similar words we need to contemplate upon, use our logic and understand so that we get doubts and we get those cleared using the scriptures. So what is the difference between existence and appearance? We generally take it as whatever exists appears and whatever appears exists. there's a subtle distinction between these two. As we see in the next slide, if you can concentrate as it plays, you just concentrate on the moving dots. Yes. Now, as you concentrate on the moving dots, you just concentrate on the central square, black square. When you focus for a while, gradually a green ball starts appearing. One of the dot, which is green, starts moving. It's appearing, though it does not exist on the slide. So the existence and appearance are not synonymous. See in the next slide, appearance does not mean existence. So this is one thing which we need to keep in our mind. And in the next slide, this is something to contemplate upon, to use our logic and seek solutions from scriptures. Existence and appearance are different. Existence is negated by Vedanta, whereas appearance is acceptable because we experience it, even though it does not exist. And the third point is negation of origination. Origination, creation of the world has to be negated totally. And that's what we are seeing here. From verse 3rd to 9th, we saw origination of Jiva, the experiencer. Jiva Srishti was negated. In verse 10, we saw Jagat Srishti, the experienced part of the world, is negated in verse 10. So that's by taking dream example, and the earlier Jiva Srishti was negated using pot space versus total space example. And from verses 11 to 14, we are seeing the Upanishads convey the same meaning, Jivatma, Paramatma identity, and negation of Jiva Srishti. In verse 11, we saw Taittiriya Upanishad example for negating the Jiva Srishti. And in verse 12, we are taking example from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In second chapter, 5th section of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is called Madhu Brahmanam, because the word Madhu keeps repeated often in this section, the 5th section of second chapter. In this, the Upanishad divides world into several pairs belonging to microcosm and corresponding macrocosm. Dvayor madhu jnane parabrahma prakashitam prithviyam udhare cha eva yata akasha prakashita. With reference to the duals, that's the micro and macrocosm described in Madhu Brahmana, the Brahman is revealed in both of them, even as earth or as the stomach. The same space is demonstrated to exist in both. As we see in the next slide, the world is divided in this Upanishad into pairs, microcosm and macrocosm, and with an addendum that both means the same, aikyam of these two. The essence of both Veshti and Samashti is the same. That is what this section of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad teaches. Adhyatma, Adidaivam, the technical words for microcosm and macrocosm. Veshti, Samashti. To take example of ice and Surya Devata, wave and ocean, Jivatma and Paramatma, space within our own stomach, space all over the earth. So these are the two aspects, but the Ekatma is revealed as the essence of both these pairs, both these parts of the pairs. Jivatma is not born out of Paramatma. Both are equal. There's an Ekatma which is an essence of that. Water is the essence of both wave and ocean. Like that, Jivatma and Paramatma, the essence is Ekatma. Jiva Srishti does not happen. Jivatma is not born out of Paramatma, as exemplified in this section of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So that is the scriptural proof needed, which again validates our logical thinking, which was described earlier. That's in the 12th verse. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Komal. As always, in your presentation, we have a newer dimension of understanding. And through your slides, you convinced us very clearly, just because something that appears and appears tangible, appears real to my sense organs, it does not mean it is real. In fact, when we study Vaitatya, there is one rule: whatever is an object of experience is not real. I can see this world, not real. I can see my body, not real. I can see my mind. And that is what we studied in Vaitatya Prakaranam. So whatever I see and experience is not real. Then what is real? The experiencer is real. And we saw that experience of how that blue dot comes. Now, we've now gone into the Madhu Brahmana, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and which is Adi Shankara's favorite. And if you go to Bhashyam, you will see he will go on giving quotations after quotations, mainly from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and he will elaborate on this. Remember, we are going far from the seventh mantra. That is why Swamiji tells us to remember the first 7 mantras again and again. Would you remember what is the third mantra? Jagrita Sthana Bahishprajnaha Saptanga. It has got 7 limbs. That is where you compare your eyes with the Surya. You compare your chest with the entire space, your feet with the earth. You know, there Vishwa and Virat are considered the same. And that is why we have to see ourselves not as Vishwa, but as Virat, but as the creators of the whole universe. Both Vishwa and Virat are manifestations of the two things, like Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. I am the creator of my dream body, Taijasa. I am also the creator of the dream world. Both these are Mithya. The Satyatvam is the real me. We will have 2 more verses on the same theme explained by Dr. Sanjay Banakal. Dr. Sanjay, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So we are in this chapter, Advaita Prakarana of Mandukya Karika, where Gaudapada is analyzing the term Advaitam, meaning non-dual, which is the description of Suriyam in the 7th mantra of the first chapter, Agama Prakarana. It says, Shantam Shivam Advaitam, Chaturtham Manyante Saatma Savijñeya. Non-dual means one without a second, which automatically conveys the idea that it is beyond cause and effect relationship. Jiva and Jagat are not different from Brahman, and no relationship is possible. This we have already seen in the earlier shlokas. So Gaudapada is trying to establish that Brahman is not the cause of this Jiva or Jagat. Hence, Brahman cannot create anything. So he did this in this chapter through logic and a scriptural support. He's establishing the fact that the creation is impossible. So from verse number 2 to 10, there was a logical negation of the creation. And from 11 to 14, we are seeing the scriptural negation of Jiva Srishti. The scriptural assertion of essential oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma through many Mahavakyas were quoted in the previous verses 11 and 12, which we have just seen. However, one will notice that the topic of creation is described in great detail in many Upanishads. And you will wonder why Gaudapada is ignoring them. Is he selectively quoting the Mahavakyas and ignoring? Is this not a manipulation? This doubt will come to a thinking student. So, where is the topic of creation which is described in the scriptures? If we go through the various Upanishads, one of the Upanishads, Mundaka Upanishad, familiar Upanishad, in this Upanishad, it says that Brahman is the reality. From a blazing fire, sparks of the same nature arise by the 1,000. O Somya, in the same manner, diverse beings arise from Brahman, and they also dissolve in that. In the same Upanishad, there's one more verse which says, 2 birds are always together on the same tree and similar to each other. One of them eats sweet fruits, the other simply looks on without eating anything. Look at how beautifully a creation topic and which is described in great detail in these Upanishads. How is it possible that the scriptures are giving at the same time essential oneness between the two, and at the same time they say there is a creation? The scriptures are giving such a diagonally opposite statements. And should we take both together? If we take both together, it is foolish on us. because we are not using our intellect. But a thinking student, a discerning student will certainly ask questions. Why scriptures are giving such contradictory statements? However, Gaudapada clarifies these contradictions in these following verses, number 13 and 14. So according to Swami Paramarthananda, scriptural study means systematic and consistent study for a length of time under the guidance of a competent teacher. Hence, it's very important for one to go through the whole length and breadth of the scriptures under the guidance of a competent guru. Otherwise, there is a lot of scope for misconception. So this study involves, as we know, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nitidhyasanam. Of this, Mananam is very important after Shravanam. It's not just Shravanam. We need to ask questions whenever I get doubt. And we cannot simply accept whatever is told to us by scriptures. So that part is known as Mananam or contemplation. So this contemplation should get rid of all the doubts that one may have, realize what is said in the scriptures. So no doubt scriptures talk about the duality, but what is their ultimate message? And what is the primary teaching of Vedanta? And we should understand that. And for that, Gaudapada says, the primary teaching of Vedanta is Advaitam, because scriptures criticize the duality and praise the glory and glorify the non-duality. So where does the topic of criticism come in Dvaitam? Let us look at some of these examples, like Kathopanishad, which we have seen. He says, Mrutyoho samrutyam gacchati ya iha naneva pashyati. One who sees duality goes from death to death. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, one shloka comes where it says, Yada hi evaisha etasmin udaram antaram kurute atha tasya bhayam bhavati. As long as differences exist, there will be fear. So this is very clear that the scriptures are criticizing the multiplicity or Dvaitam. However, at the same time, we should look or we should notice that the scriptures glorify the Advaitam. If we see the Ishavasya Upanishad, Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmaiva Bhut Vijanataha Tatra Ko Mohaha Koshokaha Ekatvam Anupashyataha. That person who sees similarity between everything, where does he have any delusion? Where is the sorrow? Because he sees only one thing. So coming to the verse proper, number 13, Gaudapada says, Jivatmanor ananyatvam abhedena prashasyate nanatvam nindyate yacha tadevam hi samanjasam. He says, ananyatvam, oneness of Jivatmanoho. Jivatma and Paramatma prashasyate is glorified by the scriptures. Abhedena, through Abheda Vakya or Mahavakya. We have seen in many Mahavakyas which are coming in the scriptures. And they are being glorified. Whereas Nanatvam Nindyate, scriptures criticize the differences or duality or Dvaitam. Tadevam hi samanjasam. Therefore, my conclusion alone is right. Advaitam is the primary message of scriptures and not Dvaitam. Since the identity of the ego, let's look at the translation of this verse. Since the identity of the ego and the self among themselves has been praised and the multiplicity is severely condemned in the scriptures, non-duality alone is the rational and the correct. Then what is this worship and all those things? Why the scriptures prescribe worship or upasana? If duality is the cause of suffering, why should scriptures prescribe upasana? He says in the verse number 14, Jivatmano Vrutatvam yat Pragutpatte Prakirtitam Bhavishyad Vritya Gaunam Tad Mukhyatvam hi Naivijyate. He says in the verse number 14, Utpatte Prag, before the Advaiting teaching, Prutatvam difference between Jivatmano, Jivatma and Paramatma is Prakirtitam, talked about. Tat Gaunam Bhavati, but that teaching is secondary. Bhavishyat Vrutya, from the standpoint of future teaching, that is Advaitam. Mukhyatvam na yujyate. It is not proper to give primary importance to the duality. Next slide, please. Because this is verse number 14. Why prescribe worship if it is to be condemned? So he says, because Dvaitam is useful as a stepping stone for what purpose? For gaining Chitta Shuddhi. Without Chitta Shuddhi, Advaitam cannot be reached. So to reach Advaitam, one needs to have Chitta Shuddhi, and for Chitta Shuddhi, one needs to have Advaitam, wherein Upasana is prescribed. Dvaitam is incomplete without reaching Advaitam, and Advaitam is impossible without going through Dvaitam, according to Swami Paramarthananda. Therefore, Veda Purva prescribes Dvaitam as a stepping stone, and Vedanta eventually takes us to Advaitam. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay, for giving us another few scriptural quotations. Here we are seeing a paradox, and we have to understand there is a role for Jiva and Ishvara Veda. In the Veda Purva, to bring in Bhakti, to bring in Chitta Shuddhi, to get Jnana Yogyata. But later on, the scriptures do negate them because there is something called Gauna and Mukhya. Gauna is the initial part. This is what is called Adhyaropa Apavada. In order to get the teaching, there is a compromise on the teaching before, but later on it is rectified. The last Karika, Dr. Komal Prasad, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We are again seeing that we have to negate the existence of the world. Very crucial thing. And secondly, in addition to negating the existence of the world, we have to negate the origination of the world. Two important prerequisites for us to go further. We have no qualms about accepting the appearance and experiencing the world. World appears to us, we experience the world, that's okay. But the reason why it appears, even though it is non-existent, is because of Atma Avidya, Mula Avidya, Maya, or self-ignorance. So this is the gist. This is what we need to keep in our mind. If existence of the world has to be negated and appearance of the world has to be accepted, how is it the world is appearing to be existent? So this is the question we are seeing. Gaudapada says, even though world appears to exist, we should not accept its existence. The existence appearing in the world, apparent appearance of existence, apparent existence of the world is not belonging to the world, but it is borrowed from me, the Atma. So this is little, it takes some time to think and assimilate, because we are not giving existence. We are totally negating existence of the world, even though we experience it. As I think you can see my finger here. So there is one apparent Jivatma or Paramatma written on my finger, on my thumb. Can you see the
Yes, Komal.
kind of smiley there? Yeah. So now I will talk to it. I will ask, do you really exist? It says, no, you take a guess. Actually, I just appear to exist, but I really do not exist. But for me, you appear to be real and existent. What lends your appearance? What lends your apparent existence? Then here it opens up the secret. Haha, I borrow my existence, the apparent existence from you. If I go forward, you see it's my own body. So this apparent existence, what exists is only me, the Atma. Everything else is that apparent thing which appears to exist but really does not exist. But the thing is, what is the advantage of negating the origination but accepting the appearance of the world? Why are we so vehemently against origination? Let it originate. Let there be some theories of origination of Jivatma, or Jiva, or world. What is so wrong? What is the fallacy if we approve of origination? Like I try to break this out, this thumb of mine, I try to break it out and keep it outside me. I pull it out. It's never possible. Because the only thing existent, only thing existent is you, which is all pervading, which is everything. If you cut this thumb, where will you keep it? If this thumb, if this gentleman arises from my body, where else is there to keep it other than my own body? Because nothing else exists. That's the fallacy, the logical fallacy, why we have to vehemently oppose any theory of origination. Either it's Jivatma or Paramatma. That's a requirement. It's a logical requirement, which is again and again in different ways pointed in scriptures also. Very difficult to reach there. Because again, our logic, our Mula Avidya comes in the way in that understanding. So if that world does not originate in Brahman, but it appears in Brahman. So this thing does not originate from my body. It appears in my body. Okay. Because if I assume my whole body is the only thing available, only thing, that's the whole field, that includes everything, then where else, if you take it out, where else do you keep? Because the infinity is included in you. So that's the logical fallacy. So because it's difficult to understand, scriptures temporarily gives us this knowledge through steps. As we see in this next slide, we see the 15th Karika. Duality is used as illustrations. Mrit Loha Vispulinga Adhya, with examples like clay, gold, sparks, etc. in scriptures. Srishti Yacha Udita Anyata. Creation has been illustrated in many ways. This itself shows that if something can be explained in many different ways, then that shows how much importance for that process of creation has been given to the process, how much importance is given in our scriptures. If it were to be one real creation, one way to create things, there could have been a uniformity, a kind of coherence in different Upanishads, whereas that's not true. They are illustrated in many different ways. Upaya sa avataraya. It is only a method used for the purpose of explaining that, the non-dual reality. Na asti beda kathanchana. There's really no duality at all. As we see in the next slide, these examples like clay, pot, gold and ornaments, iron and iron materials. It's a temporary stepping stone, as we saw that now we learned about what's the difference between appearance and existence. Like that, we need to go further. Till there, we need to clutch something like a pole vault, as we see in the next slide. Till we reach there, a dualistic world is really not there. It's a mere appearance. But to reach there, first, as scriptures guides us, handholds us, initially taking the crutch of, like there's a pole vault of Srishti. It makes us to accept Srishti for a while. Go till you reach that level, go to Advaitam, and then discard that concept of Srishti. So this is necessary, and that's the reason why this kind of apparent contradiction in some Upanishads, until we reach there, we need to hold on to that theory of creation, and then we need to drop it to go to that Advaitam. That's the 15th verse, where duality is used as illustrations. But here Gaudapada very clearly says it's only for illustrative purposes till we reach there. Then we have to discard that concept of creation, come out of it, and go to Advaitam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Komal Prasad. As always, you are very unique in giving us newer ideas of understanding this very difficult topic of Vedanta, where you gave an example of Jivatma, Paramatma, two different beings, but one being supported by the other. But there is really no difference. Two things to understand: the difficulty in accepting an appearance and to understand that there is no real existence. That is one. Second is very, very difficult to understand that there is no such thing called creation. Scientifically also we agree nothing can be created, nothing can be destroyed. So everything is as it is. Therefore, we are from science also, we are very close to Gaudapadacharya's discussions of Advaita Vedanta. But as I said, it's difficult to come to terms. It takes a lot of time. I'm extremely happy that even as we are going to those Himalayan peaks, our students also have raised their level to become teachers, to explain such difficult thoughts. This has been a tremendous process of growth for each one of us. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hearty thanks to Dr. Hegde sir and to all the speakers of the day for the enlightening presentations. Also, thanks to all the Vedantins who have joined us for today's session. Let us chant the Shanti Mantra and conclude the day's session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.